Good afternoon. Welcome to the Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM, the Jamaican station with international connections. The purpose of which is to engage people on the rock and with special attention to those anywhere, everywhere in the Jamaican diaspora, to ensure that the correct news and a variety of views are presented about what's happening in this beloved and exciting Jamaican nation among our people, a God-blessed people who are making our way in the world everywhere and retain their connections and their hopes and their aspirations where their navel string is buried. Jam down. Thanks so much for joining us. You're welcome to call us on WhatsApp at 876-551-5782. The studio line is 876-676-4996. And you can download the mobile app from the Android Play Store and the Apple Store. It's the Bridge 99 FM. I gather that we have listenership all over the world. People write in, people meet us everywhere and speak of their attention to this program. The Honorable Colonel Charles and I, the co-hosts of this program, thank you and welcome you. It's been an exciting week in Jamaica, fervid and fervent, but that's the way we are as a people, isn't it? And this afternoon, at about 12:35, Professor Trevor Monroe, the founding director of National Integrity Action, one of the foremost civil society bodies in Jamaica, will join us. We're talking about constitutional reform, and his body, the National Integrity Action, last week declined to appear and submit before the Constitutional Reform Committee that government has set up because of the way that committee has been operating. And so let's hear why. If you want to be engaged in constitutional reform, how can you decline to speak to those who are engineering it? And yet, what is the reason why those people on that committee are conducting it the way they are? Do they have credibility left? And then later on in the program, after 1 o'clock, Jeanette Calder, well-known director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, they look at integrity issues to do with public officials, parliamentarians. They have a view on the appropriateness of some 6 parliamentarians who the Integrity Committee indicates that they are looking at allegations of or suspicions of unjust enrichment, whether they should still be making the laws, whether they should still be on the committees of parliament while all of this is taking place. The editorial of the Gleaner today is very clear on that subject. We'll take it up with Jeanette Calder later on. In the meanwhile, there's so much to talk about. We go to the systems. We look at the roots of all of our issues, and so here goes. Sir, welcome.
Welcome. I have been thinking about a little problem.
Tell me.
And I want to take 2 minutes to ask you.
Yeah.
I was born in 1936.
Wow.
And on Monday morning, 9 o'clock, on the 31st of August.
So your mother tell you?
Yes.
Here's the evidence.
I have calculated that my birthday and the day I was born comes only every 7 years.
Really?
Okay, the 31st of August comes around for the day only every 7 years. Now I want to ask you, and let me tell you, with my knowledge of where I was born, and I've been back there, I have seen, I'm not talking about mining now, I'm talking about people and development, not only in but the rest of part of Jamaica. I would like you to tell me, in your opinion, have Jamaica move forward? Where are we, where we are today? Have we come a long and good way? And who or what body is more responsible? And I'm going to touch some of them, for the churches, the schools, the roads, the telephone, the electricity, the water, and so forth. I won't say that I think government is more upfront in that. But the question is, have we done better than we were? Have we gone further than where we were? And probably you would say, have we gone far enough? But let's not get there yet. Let's look from where we are coming and where we are today. And I listened to a discussion this morning of the schools that have been coming first, second, and third, and fourth. And the person who come number one don't agree with the school. They put things to school. But the question is, have we come forward?
The answer is yes. Unequivocally, yes. The answer is also that there are so many things that were better in 1936 than they are now. But in terms of the classical indices of progress, people have
internationally, you're talking about.
Internationally,
yeah.
The suppression of chronic diseases. The constituency that I used to represent had a history, perhaps around the time when you were born, of yours.
Yes.
There's no such thing now. We had leprosy savaging the lives of hundreds and thousands of people.
Well, health service then.
Health service has improved.
Yes.
The availability of educational opportunity for all of our children is a world-class achievement.
Yes.
It was not so in 1936.
Yes.
The concern that many of us have is to having recognized and agreeing with you, yes, that there is so much unachieved potential that has eluded us during that period of your life and mine, and it still appears to elude us unnecessarily. And it's not to be, we must never be ungrateful for the activity, the agencies, the institutions upon which we all stand.
Ronnie, you touch agencies.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about this and I looked it up, I saw that Norman Manley established a lot of agencies island-wide that moved us several steps forward.
Sure.
And we'd get back to Parliament because I wanted to see, was there anything done with Buster since he was the opposite? And I look at the working class, things that happened.
No, he gave such confidence to the working class and gave them brokered for them the feeling that the knowledge that they were more than just remnants of slavery.
You use the word because I think I was searching for it and couldn't get it. Right? It gave the working class, not Buster one, because Mandy was right there with a legal setup.
Clearly.
Right? Yeah. But workers got confidence that they were able to speak.
Sure.
And they were a representative for them.
And that is why so many of us now, when we look at the labor movement,
mourn at what is happening.
at that, because we're not supposed to be moving backwards. We're supposed to be moving forwards. Look at the let me use the term generously but appropriately. The genius of Edward Seago in setting up the Heart Trust. Yes, the genius of Michael Manley in the National Housing Trust. Yes, these are just some instances. We could talk of many more. We could talk about Mr. Wesley Powell. I'm just picking names out of a hat. Bishop Gibson, yes, and their contribution. Mr. Mills to primary education. Mrs. Dalton James. So many others. Look here. Let the word go out from you, sir, and myself. That we believe that Jamaicans are great people. We're God-blessed people, and the problem is that we are not exercising our full potential. When independence came, I said this to you, I think, before. This independence 2 weeks ago was a spiritual moment for me. I thank God that I am a Jamaican. At this point, I don't really want to check for American society, good as it is. I don't really want to be a Haitian or a Cuban or a Salvadorian. Yes, God bless all of them.
I'm not even in Israel.
No, sir, no one day. I'm glad when I heard this morning, Pernell, over the BBC News about the horrible torture that the people, that officials in Russia have exacted on Ukrainians, prisoners of war.
Yes.
We don't do that. our situation in our prisons is execrable. It needs to be changed. It needs to pull down and make up back again. There's a horrible, cruel spirit of denunciation. But it is nothing like what is happening in some of these other countries.
Suppose I tell you, I was talking to a man who don't even go high school.
Yes, sir.
You know what he said to me?
Yes.
Mr. Charles, when you're driving a car, you know, and you reach 90 miles an hour, you don't have to press the gas no more, you know. You just make it go on.
Yes.
Now, he understands something.
Yes.
Because when you are at 30 miles an hour, we press the gas.
Yes.
Reach 50, 60, 70. But when you're high speed now, you know.
We know which high speed yet.
No, but it's a different speed
Of course it is.
to move from.
Yes. And you can't speak of us reaching high speed when we have that horrible, awful, desperate crime of the burnout of that yard in Gregory Park.
But Ronnie, do you understand what happened? I don't think we'd understand it.
I don't
think any
understand.
investigation that's coming to that.
No, but what I'm concerned about is that we are likely to look at it in terms of some person's criminal responsibility, which of course we have to. That's part of it.
It's
But
several things.
but-
What bothers me
yeah,
is those of us who are looking at it a political point of view.
all the more and
And
politics.
that I would hope.
Yes, me too. Me too, and I don't know of any evidence that it is political. But the word is easy to call.
Oh, yes.
No, there's so many other questions though. Why were people living in that kind of environment where they could be touched so easily? Yes? The Member of Parliament has correctly stated that what the place needs is a tremendous housing uplift. Yes? Why we're not short of money to do that? Why haven't we done it? So there are systemic questions. The other question that you would expect from me, but I put to you it's as much as yours as mine. What is in the heart of the people who could do that to children and to women and to men? Where is that hatred?
Two answers I have.
So-
First, that is not the worst or the only bad
No.
spot that
No.
we have in Jamaica that right around the country that we need to look at
Yes.
and work on.
Yes, sir.
Because we seem to be improving from 2-story to 10 stories
Yes, sir.
rather than starting a story.
Got you. I agree.
you
Listen to this.
understand what
Listen
I'm
to
saying?
this. Of course.
All right.
And this is
That is one. My mother said, there's so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad
in the best of us.
in the best of us, that it hardly behoves any of us to speak about the rest of us. No, that's one of my poems that we learned.
They're gems. That's philosophy.
Yes, but everybody is sorry when the thing happens.
Yeah.
How you ask a question, you're asking me who don't have an answer.
Yeah.
How could you go to a place, buy the petrol,
Yeah.
drive with
Premeditate.
it, knowing what you are going to
To
do?
do.
Is it
Knowing
that,
what is
that
going.
part of your brain don't work? So some people live there.
No, yeah.
That them furniture is there.
yeah.
That them like food is there.
Yeah, that their children
that
are
them baby are there.
they have to fling the baby
that after you
over the
burn down, they don't
wall.
have nowhere to live and nowhere to go. That side of your head don't work.
No, you see. So where are we lacking in that regard? What have we not? We as not government, not party, but all of us. Where are we lacking in that regard? What is the fundamental respect for human life that is missing, and which isn't being cultivated in the way that we cultivate Ray and Bacchanal?
We
Yeah.
will talk about this a little more. We need to invite, and you have done it every day, but we need to invite some other people because probably me and you missing certain points. You know,
I'm all for the
invite them to-
invitation. I'd like some of those people who have the distance of living abroad, and
Yeah.
perhaps to consider themselves and reflect, see a different perspective that they could share with us also. But there are some things that we already know. We know that early stimulation, that early socialization is very, very important. Why is it that we have not done more, or how, let me put it positively, how is it that we are going to do more in that regard? Yes, we know the importance of family. We know the significance of people having not extravagant, not luxurious, as some would have it, but decent living conditions. Yes, how that affects your activity, your mind, your conscience. I use a word named conscience. Do we accept in Jamaica that human beings have conscience? Conscience other than just to do whatever they feel like doing?
But you know something, Ronnie, and you said it not plain enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Many of the Jamaicans who have traveled abroad,
Right.
they have lifted themselves
Sure.
in a way that cultural movement, educational movement, monetary values in movement, and they look back and they have not left us.
No.
Our
But-
Jamaicans who have gone abroad, and I told you about one where the farm worker man, them used to
Bring everything.
used to carry a grip,
Yeah.
load up everything from boy in the district, a dungaree, and this, and this, and that. So when the farm worker is coming back, he carries
But
some of American Canada.
But that's why we do this program. That's why this station exists, and it's so important to be maintained, because it is that connection, it is that different perspective, it is that remove that nonetheless is not a distance between them and us that we need because the people who pack barrel and send it home, they have the same spirit as a farm worker. You know.
Hold the word. I went to the port yesterday.
Oh.
Some lady called me and said, I was sending a piece of an item for my father who is sick, but unfortunately he has died, and therefore I heard that your wife operates a nursing home, and I would like to contribute it to her for the,
Yeah.
And I went to the port.
Yeah.
And a whole heap of something going on there, brother.
Yes. A whole heap.
Me say if you see barrel, and on Christmas yet,
No.
the man said to me, when you come back here 3 months from now, Mr. Charles, you will not be able to go over there. These Jamaicans who have gone
They're
abroad,
keeping us alive, so.
they
And we're giving-
are the greatest asset.
and we're giving
to
them
us.
scant Thanksgiving. We're not. Many of us just take as if we are entitled.
No, but hold on. Let me disturb you. It's not everybody giving them that. The country them come from, the people them come from, the schools that they used to go, right? Their family, them know say that it's Christmas a come, and them know something coming.
See, all the
We
thing-
up here now, who ought to be operating the official area for them, we going like them not part of us.
Yes.
Maybe they're not, because they are a part of the real part of Jamaica.
And we are not the part. And we are absent from that. Boy, that's a hard statement, but it's not wrong. So, what are we saying? We need to. One of the things we need to do is start having fundamental discussions, philosophical discussions that are connected with reality. I'm disturbed that our response to crime does not involve any of this. Yes.
Well, before we get into the crime, I promised some people. I went to a funeral in Marant Bay, and several of the people are from Canada. And they asked me to congratulate you for communicating with the bridge to them in Canada, and that they listen to you all the time. Somebody say, what about me? They say, so you did it too, sir.
You did it.
Right?
No, well, I share with you, and I thank them for that. That's exactly what we want. We want ties that bind. Okay. So
You're on crime.
crime. I want us to look at the origins of crime. Why can't we? Or when are we going to start looking and saying why is it that our young people gravitate toward the gangs if the gangs are the origin of crime? Why?
And somebody said to tell you that you must not say it that way,
Why?
because she said 90% of our young people are not involved in that. They have moved forward.
Sure. So what about the 10%?
She said that you must just say why some of them.
Why some of them? I accept the correction.
Okay.
So some of them, no. Why is it? Because they did.
And what can we do to pull that
absolutely,
10%?
Absolutely.
So we concentrate on the 10%.
Yes, of course. So because they're the most dangerous, and this doesn't mean
and
that
they detract from the 90.
Sure, this doesn't mean you take away from the 90, but you have to pay special attention.
Yeah.
And it bears repetition. This week gone, there was an announcement of special facilities, special youth opportunities for, I think it's 500 young people a year. Okay, that's good, but we know that 500 isn't scratching the surface. The
I don't know why you said it, because you're part of the discussion. Because I use that word, that 500 start on the man. So so follow Mr. Tweet. Him say 5,000.
Yes.
You said 5,000?
Yeah, I said 50,000.
Oh, 50,000.
Yeah.
But the truth is this. That is the way that we are going to get rid of that percentage.
Clearly,
and this is a problem.
This involves discipline. It involves work. It involves sustenance of one sort or another. Nothing for nothing. Nothing because you're entitled or because you go on like a rude boy. You must get something.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
a different approach. Yes, and I say it again that it cannot be done by one side alone. It has to engage the entire society, including the combined political energies of the country. There are so many other things. Before time runs out at 12:30, I want to add, you went by the wharf yesterday, yes? And you have commented about the number of cars that we are importing into the country. This statistics came out last week, Mr. Charles.
Yes.
In 2022, we imported 25% more cars in Jamaica than the year before. No.
And you said something the other day, which my man in Reddy's asked you about. Say you are blaming the availability of funds from the bank to the importers.
Of course, and I'm also saying that government has put itself in an absolutely unsustainable position because they want the revenue from the gas, they want the revenue from the import tax. Yes, they are heavily invested in the revenue of Jamaica is heavily invested in us having more cars, not less cars. Yes, more congestion rather than a better public transportation system. And that is not a position, it is obvious, it is undeniable, it's not a position they want to be in, but it is a position in which we have backed ourselves into, and we can't change it because we will not have a united front to say, listen, we have to reverse gear.
I was discussing this yesterday, and somebody said they correct me. I don't know if they are correcting me.
What they say?
They said that a number of the cars down at Marcus Garvey Drive are in transit.
No, we know that, sir.
I didn't know that.
No, I'm.
Some are going to other countries.
I'm aware of that. Some are. But what we do know is that there's official statistics now that is 25% more than the year before.
In Jamaica.
For Jamaica.
But I will tell you better than that. I still say that I was looking a little further than some are looking now. When I was Minister of Public Utilities and Transport, I said all the people, or most of the people from Portmore coming to Kingston should come by boat.
But of course, sir.
And those from Port Royal should come by boat. And guess what? When I'm coming up back from in the morning, I can travel at 90 miles an hour.
Sure, but
because there's nothing coming up.
No, but if you go the opposite direction.
5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And if the boats were down there, the taxis would be carrying the people up to work.
Yes.
And those would be going on, and we'd have a better, easier.
So, sir, why don't we do this? We are wasting money. We are squandering foreign exchange. There is no foreign exchange for agriculture because we are spending it all, most of it, exaggerating now to make my point, but not by much. We are spending it all on these imports of motor vehicles. And
but they say it's not government money.
Things.
They say it's the banks that are giving it to the private sector to do it.
But of course. But if there is if you don't have a proper transportation system, yes, what people are going to do that, and the banks are looking for customers. They get great interest. It's a good security. Nobody wants to lose a car when they've taken it out. Yes? So everything hinges together because we are fractured and because we of our national philosophy is of individual advancement rather than the common good.
Well, individuals, better you say that we have individualized for a whole lot going on over, because the truth is, I went to speak to the inspectors yesterday.
Transport inspectors.
And I saw some beautiful people there, men and women. And they understand what is happening out there. And I said to them, I understood this 10, 15 years ago. And the bus that is leaving Price Right, that takes 2 hours from Price Right to come to Crossroad, don't expect somebody who wants to go to work to take that.
Take it. So,
and when you get into a taxi and say, go there, go there, late, check it.
So all of that.
And you, Mr. Tweed, is importing more buses to go slow. Because if you have more cars and more buses,
so the whole thing needs to change up, sir.
Yes, sir.
And we have to be radical and fundamental and unprejudiced in our thoughts and not looking over our shoulders. The statistics this week is that we have the lowest unemployment level in Jamaica's history. I heard the Minister of Finance congratulating us and himself this morning about that, and it's true. Except that it's not true.
Yes, hold on. I don't want you going no further. Because, I was in discussion yesterday with a lot of people. And a man said, Mr. Charles, I like change the work, I work, but the money is small. In other words, a lot of people are working, but the prices have gone up more than the salary that they've gotten.
You said it to me.
And I ask you, would they have been better off at the same salary and the prices at the low prices? I don't know.
If there were that kind of equation, that would be arguable. But the point is, you made it. We can be so happy about lower unemployment rates. Of course, we want that. But we in Jamaica, you have 2 other phenomena. One is the working poor that you just spoke of.
Yes.
People are working, and at the end of the day, they're exhausted, and they can't buy dinner and send a kid to go to school.
Yes.
That's one.
They're getting bigger pay,
but the money
cannot
carry
buy the bigger price.
No, sir. And the second thing is, we have a large number of persons, hundreds of thousands of persons of working age, who are outside of the labor force.
Well, let me bounce you on this one first.
So no time for clapping yet.
Before I go to the working poor, let me ask you something that's a different philosophy, ideological philosophy.
The speaker spoke. Start. Quick.
Do we look at price control?
Not anymore.
Should we look at price
Of course
control?
we should.
The political system would support it?
No. Certainly not the political system that allows banks to run riot over people's accounts. The political system that believes that unbridled market forces are the solution to human need. That is a problem. That is why I cannot support the government that you are part of.
Yeah, but yesterday the man who spoke to me said that, Mr. Charles, you must tell Mr. Tweed, and Mr. Jackson want to run the thing. What about the other PNP man them? I don't hear them, so don't take it out to Labour Party one.
Well, let us accept.
If they had taken on the thing as a solid,
but they voted
make a difference.
But they voted in favour, and even if many of them were not convinced. And let us end this session by acknowledging that the need for an ideological base, yes, founded upon the notion of the common good, that whatever we do, whatever we spend, yes, must be done for the benefit of the largest majority. If we have that and we stick to that and we're faithful to that, God will bless us.
Yeah, but quickly, 10 seconds. You said a word a while ago. If we did that for the large majority, there's still going to be a minority that is crying out for help.
Yes, and then
but
we will be in a better position to help them, and that may include what your son is trying to do with the Path program, which we'll get to another time. Yeah. This is the Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM. Good discussion, Colonel Charles and myself. When we come back, Dr. Trevor Monroe. Bridge 99, the station that links with the Jamaican diaspora all over the world. Welcome to the Public Eye. The Honorable Colonel Charles and myself are the hosts, and we welcome Professor Trevor Monroe, Founding Director of National Integrity Action. Trevor, greetings.
Greetings, Ronnie. Greetings, Pernell.
Well, I don't know what the greetings, but I have to say hello, Honor Professor. Boy, because I heard you're after me.
Let me tell you, Pernell, while you were talking about the working poor, or was it Ronnie, a few minutes ago, I happened to tune in. I remember when you and I were walking the sugar estates and the factory floor and all of the other highways and byways to help that working poor get better. And I think we succeeded to some extent, but we have to look at what's happening now.
But I want you to give Ronnie the joke as to what happened to you at Appleton.
Ronnie, I don't know if I should do this, but Pernell has challenged me. We, Pernell and myself and the other union leaders were at the Ministry of Labour, I think until 2 a.m. the morning, negotiating for the best we could get for the sugar workers, particularly the cane cutters who, as you know, for so long, cut cane without much recompense. We did all that we could, but we ultimately had to settle with them for somewhere in the region of about 10%. And the workers had told us, look, the minimum we think we can live on is a 20-25% increase. So we had to go and carry the bad news, as very often leaders are challenged not to tell people what they want to hear, but to tell them the truth. So we both traveled along with the Morris and others to Appleton Estate. When we got to the estate, we saw and heard hundreds of cane cutters assembled in one of the conference rooms waiting for us. And they were all well equipped with their bills, which they used to cut sugar cane.
Machete.
Sharp machete.
Cutlass.
With the machete. Yeah. And Pernell and I and Vin Morrison were approaching the area, the room they were assembled in. And we heard them saying, boy, I hope that man will come and tell us foolishness, 20% or nothing. And we could hear the man them rumbling. All of a sudden, Vin said, boy, I have to go back to my car and get something. Pernell, I think, said, no, look, I have to go to the bathroom now. So I had to go into this hall with 200-300 cane cutters.
Well,
and tell them, boy, this is look at this 10%. And
I said, you're a professor.
One thing.
You're a professor. You go and preach to them.
That's what you said.
I go bathroom, Vin got in car, and I leave him with the mic in his hand.
But I learned a lesson then, Ronnie, that others of us, all of us have learned what to deal with the trade union field. That very often you just have to have the courage of leadership and say to the workers, look, we defend rights, not wrongs, and the best we can do is the following, and boy, you just have to live with it, Boy. So that was one of the experiences Pernell and I keep talking about.
Well, I tell you, that's history being made on the Public Eye today. Trevor Monroe, National Integrity Action, like all of us of goodwill in Jamaica, are concerned and anxious for the timely and appropriate reform of the Jamaican Constitution. Government has set up a mechanism for that, and is now seeking submissions, they say, from various interest groups, of which National Integrity Action would be a foremost one. And yet you have decided that you will not submit. Why? How can you be part of the movement and at the same time outside of it?
Well, two things on it. First of all, we are part of the movement. We made our first contributions to the various webinars in conjunction with the Jamaica Accountability Meter Network and others as early as June last year, when we engaged in that series on what the Constitution is and what it means to become a republic. And we intend to continue to do that in conjunction with the Council of Churches and with other civil society groups. And we've had a number of meetings, as you know, and I've written a number of columns in the newspaper. So that's a non-negotiable, to continue to argue for a Jamaican constitution which removes the monarchy, which establishes a republic, which Jamaicanizes our constitution, and most of all, which strengthens the democratic accountability of our political system and reduces the likelihood of authoritarian abuse. So a challenge with the Constitutional Reform Committee leadership is that many of the submissions, proposals to make that reform committee more effective and more engaging the public literally have been ignored. And I want to cite in that regard a remark which I fully agree with by Minister Malahoo Fort, who is the co-chair of the Constitutional Reform Committee. In her sectoral debate contribution on June the 6th, Minister Malahoo Fort said, and here I quote, "Members," referring to members of the committee, "have said that we cannot reasonably ask the people to approve changes without educating them on what is contained in the Constitution. And this is work that is set before us." End of quote. That's June the 6th. From April the 25th, a joint letter was sent saying as much as that to the Constitutional Reform Committee, signed by the Council of Churches, National Integrity Action, Jamaicans for Justice, the Advocacy Network, the Legal Education Institute as well. And we said, look, we want to get involved, but we want your process to be more meaningful in engaging the people. And one of the critical aspects of becoming more meaningful is public education. And that speaks for itself. So much so that we were very, very happy to see that distinguished constitutional lawyer and member of the committee, Lloyd Barnett, published in the Observer on April the 6th a question and answer, a constitution, meaning and importance.
Sure.
So you and I know that maybe 0.01%, due respect to the Good Observer, read that newspaper or any other newspaper for that matter, and that the majority of our people now are engaged in face-to-face communication on social media, etc., etc. So what we are saying is, leadership of the CRC, I beg you, do what your members are saying, what your chairman has said. Many Jamaicans do not even know what is contained in the Constitution. And at the very minimum, translate Lloyd Barnett's article, a question and answers, into the kind of multimedia outputs that are so popular now. TikTok, which you know more about than I do running, the JIS, billboards, Public Broadcasting Corporation, so that people know what is in our Constitution now, what is the powers and the limitations of what is being called a ceremonial head of state, the Governor General, so that when the conversation arises as to whether and how far the president in a republic should have the same, more powers, less powers than our Governor General, people don't look at you with a blank face and say, what are you talking about? Because they will have had an opportunity to get a better understanding of what's there now, and therefore what needs to be changed and what can be changed and how the change is to take place. So all we're saying is be more transparent, emphasize public education. Can you imagine a joint select committee of Parliament? You and Pernell have been there, and so have I in the Senate. A joint select committee of Parliament looking at ordinary legislation, not any special legislation, whether it's the Road Traffic Act or the review of the Integrity Commission, ordinary legislation, and meeting in secret without us being able to publicly to see who is saying what. And
let me ask you a quick question.
Completely out of question.
Let me ask you a quick question. And let me agree with you that as far as I am concerned, we need to get the people understanding and contribute to this have to be called new constitution. But it's not something that can be done in a year and two.
Well,
Have you looked at,
I couldn't agree with you more.
so this idea, and for the first time I hear my brother here give a congratulation to the minister when she said that it should be put at a level that whoever continue government, it continues, and not just JLP or PNP.
So
but,
why they don't start now?
no,
Exactly. I pointed with you, Colonel. In fact, one of the things we have said is that the public education, dealing with basic things like what is in the Constitution now, what is the power and limitations of our head of state, what does it mean to become a republic, why should we keep or not keep the Privy Council? That should go on for at least 1 year, using all the multimedia programs that we're all aware of, and that when we want to get the people to know what's going on, we use them. That's what we're saying. And then after that now, you can do some of the things that Carl Stone did when in 1991, you recall, he was looking at the proposals to reform the role of MPs and the code of conduct. You do a national survey and you get a sense of where people are in that initial change from the monarchy to the republic and where else they need to go. In terms of the big complaint now is that the politicians are allowed to themselves. Where do we need to go to strengthen the accountability of our politicians and public servants to the people? And that's all we're saying. We're going to be continuing that process in public. We want to start with perhaps seeing to what extent we can simplify Lloyd Barnett's very important document. Remember, he did one in 1991 too.
Sure.
And we're 2023, and the Constitutional Reform Committee leadership has seen it fit, after how many meetings, not to develop a program of simplifying the basic material so that the man in the street, and not just Pernell and Ronnie and Trevor, can understand some of the issues that are being discussed and are so important to everyday life.
What is your comment on the method of operation of this reform committee? I wish to say clearly that I have great suspicion about them because the two leaders, the two chairs, have expressed in various fora assaults upon the Charter of Rights, and secondly because their proceedings are in secret, and I refuse to accept that they have any power, any moral authority from whatever source to decide anything that may attend to my or any Jamaican's rights without telling me what the discussion is.
Absolutely. That is why Pernell and Ronnie make the comparison. None of us would accept if tomorrow morning we heard that the Joint Select Committee meeting on ordinary legislation is going to meet in secret. We don't have the chance to look at it through the Public Broadcasting Corporation. We can't sit down in the gallery to hear what's being done. And what we're dealing with is the Constitution. That is the supreme law. And the body is charged with guiding the reform is meeting in secret, despite proposals from civil society organizations to live stream the meetings in the same way that a Joint Select Committee of Parliament dealing with the ordinary legislation does. And what we got was some minimal movement in that the first three meetings, the minutes were published on May the 17th, and then a few days ago, we got information that 13 minutes of meetings have been published. The last meeting to which the minutes referred was June 21.
And this is what,
August 16? We're in August.
Yeah.
We're now in August 15. What has been happening since?
Are those verbatim minutes?
No, they're not.
So what you're talking about?
It's not what we're asking for. Live streaming, verbatim.
But I can't understand why
what's going on.
I can't understand why these people want us to turn against them. Because right now, if you ask me to accept what they come up with, and I don't know how they arrived at it and who is in favor of what, yes, I'm going to vote against it, Trevor.
Yeah, but Ronnie, let me
that is the risk.
Let me say if I am with you totally. We select people to do things on our behalf
We
because
didn't,
all of us.
We didn't.
No,
We didn't.
No, hold on. Not this idea. Say, listen to the point of me. We select some of us to do for the rest of us what we all cannot do one time. Do you agree with that?
No.
In other words, you select a committee of intelligent people who are supposed to either canvass us, know what we want,
Yes.
or do for us. And Trevor has used a
And
word.
if they do that, then they validate and justify themselves. If they proceed to act and to deliberate
No.
without doing that,
Then
they
we
have-
don't get to that yet.
no, but we're getting right away, because then that eliminates their legitimacy from the word go.
Well, they would not.
Especially if the leadership of that committee has already given us an idea of what they want to see change to, which is going to negate and adversely affect us.
Well, I am
Oh my
saying,
God, man.
I'm saying to Trevor, who has access to the committee,
Does he?
that as far as I am concerned, what the rest of us would like to know, what we would like to contribute, can be done in any short time.
No, we understand. That is
And that's why he comes up with this national survey, which solves one problem.
yeah.
In other words, you're not going to get 100% of people agreeing. But there's a national survey that gives you that the majority
Yes.
agrees, so we can proceed.
Okay.
And then you do that, Pernell, after the education base. If you ask me now, despite how many years of education I have, to choose between solar, panel, wind, and water power, I would have to say, boy, I have to pass. You need to tell me more about the pros and cons of each of those for me to make an informed decision. That's all we're saying. Take a year, giving us the pros and cons, meeting in a manner that all of us can see and hear, as happens in the Parliament every Tuesday, and let us then decide what we want to do in addition to becoming a republic, in addition to getting rid of the monarchy and Jamaicanizing the Constitution. What else do we need to do to make sure that our political leaders are more accountable to us than they are now, and hence the level of distrust and lack of confidence, which is dangerous to Jamaican democracy?
Can I be very specific? I have responsibility for some responsibility from a number of schools in Jamaica. We are dying to have some introduction to the Constitution at various levels of the education system, so that the young people who are the ones going to be bound by this instrument can know what it's all about, can have a say in it, because they're they're the ones who are going to benefit or be hurt because of it. There is no such material, Dr. Monroe.
This is it, Ronnie, and this is after many years. Let's go back and check some of the election manifestos of the parties who have promised that civic education is going to be reintroduced in schools, and it hasn't happened, and therefore we're starting from scratch in a sense. But fortunately, we have the base material that can, over a very short period of time, and I challenge the Constitutional Reform Committee leadership to do this, over a relatively short time, convert the existing material produced by Dr. Barnett on the basics. What is a constitution? What is its meaning? What is its importance? The pros and cons of the kind of head of state in our constitution. Get that out in a manner that the schools and the population as a whole can see and get a better understanding of. Then later on, after we see you in your various meetings, live stream, minutes published, later on we then get a proper vote, following a survey, if you wish, as was done by Stone in 1991, to get a sense of what the people wanted to see in relation to the duties and responsibilities of MPs. After that, we can then talk about a referendum. Right now, we do not even know the timetable. The original timetable, by the way, I'm really unhappy to recall, was to get a referendum bill into Parliament by May. Happily, public outcry and advocacy from all of us, that has changed. But we don't know how long is this process likely to continue. We're in the dark as to whether and how far there's a budget for public education, and most of all, the materials required for people to better inform themselves, so they're not being led by the nose by either political parties or political leaders that remains to be done, and that is something that needs to be urgently attended to.
Can we agree
Trevor,
Go ahead, Bernard.
Trevor, you made an important point, and I'm wondering, is the nation still, say for example, we have the farmers in an organization, we have the schools in an organization, we have the churches in an organization. It seems to be everybody's in an organization. So could we go at the organizations?
Even so, why not?
To give
The education?
Yes.
Absolutely. In fact, Colonel, I do tell you better than that. In 1991, when the Constitution Commission was set up under the late Jimmy Carter, and Seaga and the PNP leadership were very much represented on that commission, 12 different representative organizations were represented. Trade unions had members on the commission. The Women's Organization, the Bar Association, the press, the university, the youth, 39 members. And they met, they had material simplified, they had almost 40 meetings, and it is out of that material was presented that the Joint Select Committee of Parliament on Constitutional Electoral Reform in 1995 was able to meet and consider many of the proposals, accept them, and ultimately that's what Bruce was able to build on
for the Charter
after
of
a
Rights.
number of in the Charter of Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, which is the most important development in the people's rights since our independence in 1962. And I'm really happy to say that, we made a contribution to that process.
Well,
and
indeed.
One of the things we should look at is
You did, I did. Trevor did.
Yes,
all of us supported
all of
that.
us from different, and to make sure that those rights, which are set out there, despite the views I've heard expressed by members of the leadership of the Constitutional Reform Committee, that those rights are in no manner or form whittled down, but indeed strengthened in the new Constitution that's being contemplated.
Trevor, this is where I'm going. We have a significant diaspora audience on this program, and we need to lay down a line here. Anything that this Constitutional Reform Committee, if it is to regain any of its credibility, because it has none now, yes, they have to state unequivocally that nothing will be proposed for enactment that is going to derogate from the rights and obligations of the Charter of Rights of 2011.
But if you're going to put everything before the people, when they put it together...
Do not put to the people that they must dilute their rights, sir.
No. Follow me. If you are doing a package of which Charter of Rights is a part of...
No, it's more than a part of. There's certain fundamental things for Pernell. Why?
No, I am not talking against it.
Okay,
listen,
so why?
What is bothering me is what you said a while ago. Trevor is saying that the people must take a decision.
Yes.
And that the decision that we take must be part of the package of what they present. And you are saying that the state, Charter of Rights, must be in that package.
Totally. I'm saying something different. Yes? Up to 2 days ago, the Prime Minister of this country, at his wit's end with the situation at Gregory Park, the terrible event there, made hints that what we're looking at is preventive detention in this country. That is against the Charter of Rights. Yes? And I do not wish it to be put to, and I do not approve of it being put towards to people that they must take away the right of due process of law.
Can I say something on that? Because Pernell of all of us would have the most experience.
Of course, this is a man who was locked up on that.
Right, it's a Charter of Rights and Freedom of 2011 that says that what happened to Pernell in 1976 can never happen again.
Yeah, but you know something.
No question
you know something, Trevor. I'm so glad to hear you and Ronnie saying this. No,
of course, and we apologize.
And when I was in prison,
you're quite correct, but that doesn't take away from the truth of what we're saying. No.
So I said it then,
you did.
And I'm joining you to say it. No,
should never happen.
Right, that it should never happen, and it must not be permitted to happen again.
Quite so. We're on that note, Dr. Monroe, we're watching this thing. We thank you for your input. Let's continue this struggle.
Yeah, but why didn't you, Trevor, quickly, I catch you on the fourth of that. There is a statement you made this morning that members of Parliament must must withdraw if they are part to be investigated. Now, are you suggesting that if you investigate an MP and he is withdrawing now and he is found not guilty, he can go back to his constituency? The politics of Jamaica, once you name him dead.
Let me just say.
Once you name him dead.
I did.
What I'm saying.
Let Trevor say.
We're on a name list, but let me say what I'm saying. And I go back to my former student Prime Minister Bruce Golding. In 2009, and I come forward to 2021, when MP Joseph Hibbert was being investigated, he wasn't charged, he wasn't arrested or anything like that. PM Golding said to Joseph, look, my brother, step aside until the investigation is completed. Fast forward to 2021, George Brown. Prime Minister Holness says to him, take voluntary leave. Neither of these, certainly not the second, was satisfactory to me. But you can't have a situation where a person being investigated for illicit enrichment, one of the most serious anti-corruption crimes, may well be a person sitting on a committee to review the powers of that committee that's investigating him. That's a clear conflict of interest, and that's all I'm saying. And in that framework, either he, the person who knows he's being investigated, should do the right thing and withdraw, recuse himself, or alternatively, the Integrity Commission itself should say, look, this requires me to make a special report to Parliament which would take into account all of the considerations of reputational damage.
And when the allegation by the committee proved to be wrong, what happened to him? He can't go back in politics.
I don't accept that.
No, man, not at all.
I don't accept
not
that. Maybe we'll continue that with Janet Calder after the break. Thank you, Trevor Monroe. All the best. Good then.
All the best.
This is the Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM. Professor Trevor Monroe. Soon come. Bridge 99 broadcasting to the diaspora, Jamaica lovers, Jamaican people all over the world. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the Public Eye. The Honorable Colonel Charles and I host this program to give Jamaicans a perspective of what's happening in our land. Welcome, Jeanette Calder. I hear her. She's there. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi, good afternoon to Ronald. Sir Charles, how are you?
I am alive and kicking.
I would hope so.
Jeanette Calder.
As long as it's not a partner to you.
Hold on. Let's ask me again. I give Ronnie one of the joke. Ask me, Mr. Charles, how you do?
What?
And
what happened?
Sir Ronald, I have a bad connection. Your producer might need to help me out here.
Okay, hold on a second with your story, Pernell. Jeff, can you help Jeanette? She has a weak connection. Are you
it's breaking up quite a bit, and I'm on a landline. So.
Okay. Why don't we take you off the air and try and make another connection, and then come right back to this. Jeanette Calder is Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. Their job is to hold standards of accountability for Jamaican public officials to make sure that the issues of untoward behavior, of corruption, etc., are properly dealt with. They're a civil society body. They are noted for doing careful work and taking very strong stands of issues of public transparency, and particularly for the kind of accountability and probity which public funds require. We need bodies that will do that, eh?
Yes, but let me say this. I get the feeling that you're attacking only the politicians.
No, she's not on yet, you know.
Hold a minute.
Yes.
There's more than the political government that governs the country.
And let Jeanette's back on. Let her answer that question. But you were telling us about what your mother said.
Oh.
Jeanette, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, much better now.
Miss Rita, how you do? Lord, Mrs. If I tell you, take it, tell me.
Listen to me. On this program, we see Jeanette and to our listeners abroad.
Do you understand what I mean?
I think so. but we get more southern scent and folk wisdom. You see that
I see.
you can think of. Is JAMP, the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, only against or only you only deal with political miscreants, or
I could almost finish that question for you. No, we look at public officials, and there are legislation that describe parliamentarians that way. So I would put the parliamentarians under that umbrella. We really are interested, Sir Ronald, in any matters that impact on the public finances. We need the cash to provide for the needs of the people of Jamaica, like what happened in Gregory Park. I would love us to have $2 billion now to just have somewhere to temporarily relocate them until they're getting on their feet in a year.
Sure.
But we don't. My interest is not in locking away a public official or a parliamentarian. Let me make that clear. I would have become a law enforcement officer. What is motivating the team at JAMP and the board is the needs of the society that are not being met, because there is a bleeding of the public coffers, as well as not everything is stealing. There's a lackadaisicalness, there's waste and mismanagement. So that is what is driving the work of JAMP. Yeah.
Well, could I just tell you quickly that I am fully in support of looking at mismanagement of the people's business. But the other side of it is not a political side alone. It's not a government side alone. This country is broader than just a parliamentarians managing it.
But who controls public funds?
I was about to say that at the end of the day.
Hold on, Ronnie. The control of public funds, yes, is government.
Yeah.
How much of government control public funds? How much of the parliamentarian control public funds? You were there and I was there.
Yeah, and I never signed a check for all my time as a minister.
I was there for years as a minister.
Neither you.
I've never signed a check.
Yeah, but I'm responsible.
However, right.
I'm responsible.
Right. And part of the concern that's actually breaking my heart a little bit, Sir Charles and Sir Ronald, is that, which has led me, I think, last January, to have the courage to say, and it took some courage because it's a strong statement. After the 4 years of looking of this formation of JAMP, and my research into this matter began in 2016, I really have come to the conclusion, that there is not a lot of fight against corruption in the Parliament. There is some fight outside, meaning in our Auditor General, MOCA, FID, but I think the gap in the accountability chain is the Parliament. What do I mean by that? When all these reports go there, any concerns, let's think about it. Every agency, every ministry, every program has a minister of government sitting over it. No, he doesn't sign a check. But at the end of the day, when things do go wrong, that he might not have had anything to do with directly, the reports go to him and it goes to our Parliament. Now, it's very difficult for citizens like myself to see the headlines we have seen across decades, and then to realize, for example, a Public Accounts Committee sits to look at these reports for the purpose of knowing, what went wrong, how we're going to remedy it. And the PAC sits as they have, and I've looked at the last 18 years of PAC sittings, and every single year without fail, our parliamentarians that sit there provide a report. It goes back to the Parliament, and I have never been able to find 1 year when the Parliament looks at this report to debate it, to discuss it, and then to take a decision as to how we're going to fix this. So, Ronnie, this would never happen in the private sector. You could never get a CEO get a report about how the company lost 50 million, 25 million, and it sits down for a year before the board looks at it and addresses it. Yeah. And that's the responsibility parliamentarians have, and they have not been attending to it at all, Sir Charles. That's a major gap.
Could I tell you something before he tells you?
Yes.
I would be embarrassed if I didn't accept that Ronnie Tweed brought more resolutions to Parliament than all the other parliamentarians. And I've never pushed any of them to be discussed. That is one. Secondly, the Parliament, when reports are distributed to all parliamentarians, when there's an adjournment, if you want all for all the schools, you can go in the Parliament because it's just taking a number, 60% of them are left on the desk. 60% of the reports are left.
But that is making Jeanette's point that we who have sat out do sit in Parliament are less concerned than we ought to be about the probity of public expenditure, and I resolved in Parliament that if reports were not on time, that the agency should not continue to get public money. And
I have read that.
I was laughed at.
Yes, and I remember reading that recommendation.
Okay.
It was Bellevue, if I remember correctly. Yes.
And there are agencies of government that have 5, 10, 15 years in arrears of the report, let alone the consideration of the report, Pernell. And we really have to acknowledge this. Unfortunately, the structure of Parliament and the way it operates and the priorities are far removed from the kind of accountability that I think Jeanette correctly says the public needs for us to exercise.
If I may give you the latest example, in May and in April, in April, the PAC last sat to look at matters related to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. I still cannot process that the Ministry of Health and Wellness has not reported back to the Parliament in 9 years how they have spent either between 530 or 560. So let me go with the lower figure. $530 billion, Sir Ronald, Sir Charles, 9 years.
Yes.
And it is the responsibility of the Parliament. Now, 1 year, 2 year I get, but we're almost at a decade. And this is the entity that gets the third biggest share of taxpayers' money. I mean, Sir Ronald, that's what I mean. I don't mean parliamentarians are rubbing us blind, but I'm saying they have a responsibility to monitor and oversee the government spending of the budget that you approved, and that is not happening in the Parliament of Jamaica.
As a parliamentarians have never asked the Ministry of Health for anything.
No, the Parliament, they don't do that.
And if they send a report, they don't read it.
No, and remember now, let's fill this out. We're not crying in each other's cups. But up until certainly the year 2000, 2001, all we had was the Public Accounts Committee, which looks at expenditure retrospectively. All right? What I remember, it was a motion that I moved and was seconded by the late Easton Douglas at the time, for the re-establishment of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, which in fact looked at the budget and was later encoded, so that the budget and the supplementary estimates have to go to them. But even then, Pernell, you and I contended on this. When it comes to look at how we are going to spend the money. Yes, not how we have spent it. Yes. If you ask more than two questions of any minister, shut your mouth. Trust cabinet. Stop it. You know how exactly it goes, and therefore, what happens is that cabinet and effectively the budget officers at the Ministry of Finance and ultimately the Prime Minister, that small covey of people, decide how we spend $1 trillion, or who gets what and who doesn't get what. That is the reality of our situation, and that in itself, sir, is corrupt.
It mobilize and go to the Ministry of Finance. And from the Ministry of Finance, get the mobilization of wherever it comes from, private or public sector. It goes to the cabinet, and the cabinet says item 2, item 3 goes to Parliament, and it's passed through Parliament.
So
it doesn't.
That's not scrutiny.
No,
this is why constitutional reform, rather than this super effort to remove King Charles, as much as we need to do that, needs to look at the fundamental structure of government.
I support that.
But King Charles is the easiest thing to be done. In fact, King Charles is the least problem we have.
The least problem we have.
And somebody balling out and say, because I'm named Charles, no.
Take seriously, make joke. Anyway, Mr. Holder, help me. We now have a situation where the Integrity Committee, which has been under considerable critique, has indicated that 6 parliamentarians are being investigated for allegations or suggestions of unjust enrichment. These men, our women, we don't know who they are, they're not allowed to say, are sitting in Parliament. Some may be on the committee, indeed overseeing the Integrity Committee. Some may be members of the Public Accounts Committee. We don't know who they are, what they're doing. Is this right?
No, I am totally opposed to that. I oppose to the Integrity Commission casting more than all parliamentarians by saying 6 parliamentarians.
So what they must do?
If you're going to say it, name them. You can't tell
But
me.
the law doesn't allow that.
Well, okay, the law does not allow you to say that covers that dirty up everybody either.
What you say, Janet?
You should never have done that. And I heard Janet and Trevor agreeing that those people should take up the package and leave Parliament. But who are they? And,
oh no!
And in fact,
I have not said that, though, Sir Charles.
No,
I don't
shouldn't
think
say you.
anyone has
Let me
the
wait.
answer.
Could I permission to withdraw that? It was Mr. Monroe who said it this morning.
Okay.
Right?
Thank
and
you.
I said that it destroys the whole image of
So
politics.
what should happen now?
If the commission is permitted to name people, they must name them. You cannot just say the politicians.
No, but what about the people themselves, honorable men and women?
Because they might say they're not guilty.
No, it's not. It's not a question of guilt. It's a question of whether you're being investigated.
But
In
right.
2002, there was an allegation about the receipt of a check in my law firm. Yes, which had it been so would have been improper. Yes, and
Why don't you make me say it for you?
I've started. I immediately resigned. Nobody pressured me. I resigned. 4 months later, the Auditor General said that there was no impropriety whatever. I sat out a parliamentary term and came back and spent 3 more terms in Parliament. Now, I'm not more noble or virtuous than anybody else. If those 6 people know that they are being investigated, then they come forward and deal with it and think, no?
No, can I just add that, MP Robert Montague has already told the public from his seat in the Parliament that he's being investigated by the Integrity Commission. Now, what we don't know if he's one of the 6, but I think if we have a member, and I have to commend him for that, who was willing to stand and to tell Jamaica that, it means it can be done. We've heard what Sir Ronald just said, and I am going by hearsay when I say this, so I'm willing to retract if I'm wrong, but I deeply believe I recall hearing Member Warmington, who is a minister of government, also indicate that he's under investigation by the Integrity Commission. Now, what I want to say, which relates to a press release I just sent out this morning, Sir Ronald, I sent a copy to you, is that the public needs to understand the word investigation. When we use it loosely, it's one thing. When the Integrity Commission uses it, maybe when the Member of Parliament uses it, he means it differently. So we need to be clear, but there are provisions in the law that speaks to when I used to have to do it when I was in government. I used to have to sign up that same declaration form the parliamentarians and the public officials had to do. There is a Director of Information and Complaints who is mandated to review these declarations, and he will ask questions. If it's a partial submission, if you don't finish, he'll get in touch with you. If he finds that you own that boat because him check your tax payments and you never tell him, he will check in with you and give you the benefit of the doubt because people forget. But if he gets to a point where there are assets that you cannot, a parliamentarian or a public official cannot provide documentation for, I think there's a Supreme Judge, Clarence Thomas, who is having that same problem now in the United States.
Yes.
If you can't, and he has given you ample time, and they have explained what ample time means, it ample bad, and no MP or public official under that kind of scrutiny can provide the documentation, he now submits it to who? He refers it to another director under Section 46. That is the Director of Investigation. So when the Integrity Commission uses the word investigation, they're not speaking of that preliminary, look, we could have called it investigation in a running, but we can, they don't. Now, that was my concern this morning, because we had our Minister of Justice, my MP, by the way, Minister of Justice, was a part of the formulation of this act, who once sat on the Oversight Committee, very familiar with it, telling the public that we must be careful against the speculations because we really don't know the nature of this illicit enrichment. And it probably is just that there's an easy explanation being that the lawmakers can give as to how they came by this property, but they just don't get there yet. What the minister is describing is the first part of the assessment, which the Director of Information and Complaints do. No. That's not where the banter is now, Sir Ronald and Sir Charles. I have double-checked. The matter has been passed on to the Director of Investigation, which means that the first director has exhausted every opportunity to get an explanation and can't. And let me be clear, the Act, the Corruption Prevention Act, names all manner of different kind of corruption. I have said this before on air, Ronnie, and I'm going to say it again. I was committing an act of corruption, and I didn't know it, because Jamaicans don't really know what this thing is, I used to think that if money not pass, is not corruption, yeah? But any public official that give you a blight, a favor, an advantage, and a benefit over another citizen, meaning they break any procedure and rule to help you out, is a corrupt act. So if I go down a tax office and I have a brethren inside and he give me a blight, Sir Ronald, Sir Charles, under the Corruption Prevention Act, he has acted corruptly. Now, no money, no pass. But that is corruption as far as the law is concerned.
Wow, that's
I never know that.
Madam. Pernell, hold on a minute. We have to take a break. Jeanette, give us a minute, please, because we want to come back and ask the question. What should happen now? We want to see better happening in our 61st year of 62nd year of independence.
Yeah.
We'll soon come back. This is The Public Eye. Thanks for being with us on The Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM. Talking with Jeanette Calder, Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. Talking about corruption, talking about the things that are extant in our public life now and what should be done. Pernell, Jeanette has given us a perspective that neither you or I had before about the nature of investigation and the stages.
I am very glad that you're on, and I wish that it could spread from electronic media to print media, because what you have said
I didn't know that.
Very important.
Yeah.
It has, in my opinion, before you have said that, I said to my colleague here this morning that the line that you and others, Monroe and all of you, are taking will destroy the political system. Now, you have come out and said certain things a while ago, but because corruption means only one thing to the population.
Right, it's true.
But them say corporations, you're a thief.
Yeah, but tell me now.
But illicit enrichment, though, Sir Charles, is a very specific kind of corruption, which without a shadow of a doubt, it is specifically concerned with a public official or a parliamentarian using their position of power for their financial benefit, gain, or advantage. So the mere fact that they have told us the type of corruption makes it clear that this is not a small matter. It's their personal gain that they cannot explain the source of this wealth. Yeah, so, just want to be clear on that.
Before we came into the studio today, Jeanette, I saw a post on social media by Senator Peter Bunting, simply declaring that he has not been contacted by the Integrity Commission about he's not under any investigation. Now, it struck me that he was doing the right thing. If in fact they are unable, by virtue of the existing statute, to name people,
everybody else,
yes, right. Then simply, as the Glean editorial I think says this morning, whether propelled by the leaders or by individual action, just simply say, listen, it's not me or it is me.
Right, absolutely. So if we take away 6 from 63, we have 57 parliamentarians who can do, whether on the floor of Parliament or social media or a letter, just saying to their constituents and the people of Jamaica who are paying them, right? It's not me. And by default, we will know who the 6 are. So that's certainly one way of dealing with it that wouldn't break any laws.
And do you know that before you said that today, I complained to Ronnie that why I am so upset about this thing is because it destroys the whole image of politics. Those who would like to come in, those who are in their train, those who are not involved. Once it continues that way, why would I want to go in there?
So Charles, I have said there are many reasons to go into politics, I have to tell you, but I have said on a program on Monday morning when I complained, because I am complaining, that other citizens, other Jamaicans, when there's a cloud of suspicion over their head, they don't get this privilege of privacy that the legislators have put in law to protect their own interests. Let's face it, they have said that is why they've done it. They think there's a need. But I have a difficulty with the inequity in law, because so many times there are young men in particular who have been named as suspects or persons of interest. Once Jamaicans hear persons of interest, suspicion is cast. Now, I asked the question. When I said that, the interviewer said, but Jeanette, when it's a parliament here and it's front page, everybody from New York, Atlanta, UK, back to Jamaica going here. When it's the other citizen, it's nowhere on even the front page. And I agreed. However, I am not trying to measure the impact by the quantum of people who see it. I asked him the question, when last, I've been asking since Monday, name 3 or 5 parliamentarians that, come on, we are one family. We know that there are clouds of suspicion and doubt around them for decades or years. People name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 easy. I said, tell me if they have suffered at the ballot box. Them say no. I said, tell me if they have suffered by not being placed in the inner sanctum of the cabinet. I said, no. I said, tell me, when you turn on the social pages of the newspaper, are they being treated as social pariahs? The answer is no. Okay. Let's turn to the young man down in Bembo in Hanover who has been named as a person of interest in losing work, in can barely afford a lawyer, the parliamentarian going to get a king's counsel, him can barely find a lawyer, when he go court, the lawyer not turn up 6 times because them have bigger cases. The impact on that Jamaican, Sir Charles, is far greater than any parliamentarian. But we don't have any regard for them. We only legislated for the political class. That's not right.
Yeah, but we also have something else against the political class. Because if it's Mr. X, his whole family is under problem. His whole relationship.
Well, it's true for the
whether it is true or false.
Agree.
In fact,
I agree.
Right now, whether you are one of the 6 or not,
yes, yeah.
the political system
yes.
make PNP against you, JLP against you, and the two parties are fighting to say, and on me and them.
Such as,
so this is what is bothering me as a political science student.
I agree, and I said it in the same program that when these reports started to come out the first time, right after the Integrity Commission began, one member of the lower house, one member of the upper house said to me, how I don't remember the adjective, but it was like offensive, insulting, painful it is that we don't know who these people are, and we have journalists calling me asking questions. We have people and friends that ask me questions. So you're right, it casts a long shadow over everybody. But such as you were a legislator when this was passed, I am saying with the review that we are doing now, JAMP has been pressing for these things to be changed so that we don't have this lack of transparency that is not afforded other citizens. And I agree with you. I'm not saying nothing happens to the parliamentarian. I was on another program, I think News Talk it was, on Monday, and I said there are children of the politicians that have to go to school. You know how children can be in a rut, Ronnie. So I know there are pros and cons, but I am saying if the legislators and persons like yourself who still have influence in the parties ask those who are reviewing the act to change this, then the problem is solved. Yeah? Now, I have said that there is a special section, however, the Integrity Commission is not as gagged as the public thinks they are. It was Minister Chuck 2 Octobers ago who first educated me that there's a section 36 that says, and I read, the Commission may at any time submit a report relating to any particular matter which in the opinion of the Commission requires the special attention of the Parliament. If this doesn't require a special report, I don't know what would. So I believe that an interim report can and should be submitted. According to Minister Chuck, the Commission has utilized this provision before. I am encouraging them to do this again.
Could I just tell you quickly, Ronnie, one of my problems when I was Speaker of the House is that I said, if Mr. X name is called in a suspicion or a suspect, his whole constituency, because the opposition is against him, preaching in the constituency. If he is freed, he's still dead.
Well,
I see no evidence of that, though, Sir Charles.
I didn't find that, but I think it is critical that there be no undue delays in this, and this is an element because
there's a suggestion that would get rid of half of that.
Yes,
if those people are named or they withdraw. Mm-hmm. It's a different matter. But in fact, could I just tell you quickly? Let us say Montague is one of them. Montague, in getting up months ago and make that statement, his constituency is totally different to him.
Well,
Positively.
Well,
I don't know. I've never seen that impacting any MP. We have done polls that ask people how they vote, and to the consternation of many Jamaicans at home and abroad, Jamaicans have said in the survey, so when they go to the ballot box, they're not thinking about corruption. So nobody loses their positions of prestige and their office as a result of this.
So if you have the section, if you have the Section 36 option where the special report can be made, surely the Parliament can ask the Integrity Committee to do that. A simple request.
Can ask.
I mean, if the leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister, were to say to the Integrity Commission, "Come now, this thing is a cloud over all of us. We're asking you for a special report." That's one way to end this, to bring this to a head. Secondly, if the Bunting example were to be taken by everybody else in the next day or two, it would clear up. Thirdly, if Bobby or whoever else knows that they are involved, then it is incumbent on them to clear up the situation. If somebody says, "Look, now here is the situation. I have been named, but I am of the view that here's what I'm doing to clarify the situation," then I think people will understand, and the rest of us don't have to carry an albatross around our neck.
So, Ronald, if I, as the ED of JAMP, and JAMP depends on its credibility, so if I found myself in a most invidious position where, for whatever reason, some rumor bust about me, and I am under some kind of suspicion or some charge, I would have to go to my board and tell my board this, and the board would get to decide, and knowing my board, they would ask me to recuse myself. I can't imagine. I'm going to be embarrassed. My father going to be embarrassed. But let us say I am innocent. I can't sit in JAMP and say, but I am innocent. I have to think about the organization and its objectives and the extent to which I could be a humbug to it achieving its goal. And that's what I'm saying. When the parliamentarians took their oath, they vowed before God with their hands on the Bible in front of the public and the parliament, saying they're willing to what? Do all they can for this country. And I'm saying that if this might be a sacrifice, and life no fear. That is what I would say to my board. Life no fear. I am innocent, but I will have to recuse myself because the objectives of JAMP are greater than my personal self-interest. The interest of this country is greater than the self-interest of one parliamentarian. Life is unfair. If they're innocent, this is the last thing I would want to happen to them. But in the interest of the parliament, the other parliamentarians and this country, the right thing to do is to say, just like Montague did, just like I think Mr. Warmington did, I'm under investigation.
No, I think there's a further step. And you indicated how it could work earlier. All of those people, whether this is 6 or in the past or whenever, they have already been contacted and given every opportunity to explain.
Yes.
And therefore, if there is a matter that is still outstanding, they have an obligation to clear it up. Recusing themselves is one thing. I take your point there.
Yes,
but obviously their interest is not to have this thing hanging over them or everybody,
any longer
but to clear it up.
My position is similar to that.
Yes.
That
but Ronnie,
it is wicked to have this hanging over all the parliamentarians.
Come out and say. And deal with
all of it. I mean, who is there? Deal with it.
Yeah.
Or, because the truth is that if you are not guilty, right?
Yes.
You can face your people.
Well, this is
your ability to take action. What is saying.
And then the leaders have an opportunity, I think, to just act on this, and it doesn't need to go to next week Tuesday. It can be dealt with right now.
Absolutely, and it should. In the interest of Jamaica, it should.
Thank you, Miss. Really grateful. JMP continues to do its work as part of civil society. We're grateful for your company.
Thank you. And just to remind the listeners that we can be found at jampja.org with all the tools that we offer citizens to be a part of accountability. Thanks, Ronnie.
We rely on them. Thank you so much, Jeanette Calder, Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. So this thing doesn't have to be a dribbling story, Mr. Charles.
Well, I tell you what she has said here that
carries it
softens some of what I thought about the thing is the Bobby Montague thing.
Yeah, but Bobby has to do the next thing now. If he's under investigation, he can tell us that what steps he's taking to clear it up as quickly as possible.
But by doing what he has said, it has gone to his constituency and he has been there with them.
Well, that's one thing.
So if the rest of people recognize that there's a problem, and everybody's going to say they're not guilty, so they deal with your guiltless approach.
Okay, so you help me now because you see it more deeply. Why does Parliament have to get itself into this twist up and tie up? Just because there are two sides?
Ronnie, don't go any further. It is just because of the crown that both sides want. So if I believe you...
So you want a dirty up crown?
A crown is a crown.
No, I don't think so.
As far as they're concerned, some crown is not so clean, so the crown is... No, but to be serious, the point is this, that the competition for Jamaica House is a big problem.
Yeah.
The competition to sit on the right or left of Parliament is a big problem.
Yeah.
You wanted to do it differently, right?
Yeah,
but you couldn't get your side to come with you.
No, but we still have to try. And I'm hoping that situations like this can cause us all to appreciate the futility of this boundless competition. Yes, and to recognize that while it is very significant who sits on the right and the left of Parliament, at the end of the day, there's a higher cause. The higher cause is the good governance of this country. And it is not so.
You have come to that higher cause because of something else.
Well, no, but also from experience of sitting there on both sides and saying to myself, how is this helping the final, the better approach, the unrealized potential, the phrase I used earlier, of the blessed Jamaican people? How is it helping?
Could I tell you something? When you withdrew from Parliament, because of certain things that was said about you.
Yeah.
How much did it help the rest? How much did it help you at a certain level of politics in Jamaica?
I don't suppose it helped me.
Some people say you leave because you're guilty.
Yeah.
Some say you leave because you have an integrity that you have to protect. So it's not as easy as we talk.
It is not as easy, but what we must not do is to confuse it by a one-upmanship.
Yeah.
Yes?
That's a proper word.
Yes.
Because the one-upmanship means we're going to go after you and you go after me because we need the crown.
Yeah. So we are dying to see now which of the six, how much is on one side and how much is on the other. So we can say this one better.
One of your deputy leaders said that there's none on his side that is involved in that.
Right.
And then he went on to blast the government for having our half dozen of them over there.
But then, okay, well, if that is factually correct, then it illustrates the issue one step further, but it still doesn't solve it. What we want, what the people of Jamaica really want, is a group of guys and women who just simply love the thought of serving other people and go in there and follow the rules or change the rules where it is appropriate to do so and just hold it straight. And does it really matter? I mean, when all is said and done, can we work towards that? It's the only thing that you can get legacy around, Legacy with your name on building and your name on road. Now help you,
Yeah, but I said to you, or you seem to forget what I have said.
Yes, sir.
You're not going to have what you have just said as long as the war is there for who sits on the right side of Parliament and who sits on the left.
This is why.
But then what I would expect that you was going to say to me, it's not Jamaica alone.
No, but you see, I really think Jamaica is exceptional, I really believe that we can do things
we should do things.
Yes, we should. That we should respond to the graces that we have as a people, and we are bright enough. We have suffered enough. We have conquered enough. You have come from where you come from to where you are now, going through all the fire that you have, and you don't have bitterness in your heart. These are very important spiritual and practical virtues. No, we can do better. This is why I'm so impatient with this constitutional reform thing. And you can tell me all about you're being bullied. Yes? What we need is to go to the fundamentals, and the fundamentals is that a constitution is supposed to unite unite people around a series of rights and responsibilities. And if it isn't doing that, if it is deliberating otherwise on the periphery rather than the center of our existence as Jamaican people.
Let me ask you one that goes right to your heart.
Business.
You said the Constitution should unite people.
Yeah, man.
Has the Bible united people?
Many people, not enough.
No. Has the Bible unite people?
It has provided a matrix that if you are sincere about it, it does unite people. The fact is that, like any human institution, any human script, it can in fact be used for nefarious purposes, for divisive purposes. And that is to me a shame. I argue the same way in religious terms as I do in political terms. One of the weakening scandals of the Jamaican people is that there are so many different versions of people who claim Christ as their Lord. Yes, and we bad talk each other. We weaken ourselves by going in separate ways when if we were combining we could make an impact, whether it is in education or healthcare, etc. And we think we are serving our master. I don't think so. I respect everybody's differences, but beyond that, look at beyond those differences. We have got to find common cause. That is why you, Sir Pernell Charles, and I sit here.
Yeah, but I want you to look at something a little different.
Yeah.
I want you to eliminate yourself from the high standard that you have. I would like to say you have. Look at the others and tell me, how are we going to deal with it?
We're going to have to reconfigure the political culture. Yes.
Yeah, but when it's easy to talk.
It's easy to talk. I tried to do some to propose some very simple mechanisms that would have assisted. If you had allowed me to change how we sit in Parliament, I believe that I might have understood the Labour Right members that I don't understand and don't agree with a little bit more. That we would have been able to sit down with each other and sense each other's sincerity or lack thereof, and confront each other as friends and as colleagues and as collaborators rather than as vicious opponents.
I'm going to say something to you that you never knew.
Yeah.
You brought a resolution to Parliament in which you wanted to look at the prayer.
Yeah.
And I, in my Christian way, feel that you're out of order.
Oh.
So I
never
touched
told me.
base with the Prime Minister.
Uh-huh.
And the Prime Minister said, I think that matter should be referred to the committee
Uh-huh.
for them to look at.
Yeah. What happened to the committee?
I don't know whether we had referred it.
The committee never sat.
The committee never sat.
Never sat.
But, so I am just want to tell you that you weren't the only one who thinks so.
Yes.
Because although I didn't say, I say we should always pray for the Queen.
Yes.
The Prime Minister
Yes.
felt that you were right sufficiently that it should be sent to the committee to look at.
Before the program ends, let's just remind people that Parliament says a prayer before each sitting, the House or the Senate, and this is a prescribed prayer. It's written down since 1962, I believe, never changed. And what it does is to pray for the Queen and her heirs and successors, and it is it uses a very stilted, old-fashioned language. And I propose that we pray simply for the good of the people of Jamaica and for the uniting and knitting together of all hearts. Or words, simple words, a shorter prayer.
Yes.
And it is.
And I felt that as long as no. Let me say my little part. I say as long as we are the King and Queen above us, nothing is wrong in praying for them.
No, nothing is wrong, but it's something is more right to pray for our people. And
No, but you didn't say we should pray for both of them, because right now the prayers for both.
Well,
you want to eliminate them.
And what is happening is that everybody ignores the prayer because it is so completely irrelevant to their lives. And every time I was asked to say the prayer during my 24 years in Parliament, I substituted for the Queen the Jamaican people.
But
and Mr.
May I disturb you by saying that we ask you to pray read the prayer once, and you skip the Queen.
Of course, more than
And
once.
you were brought
and eventually, was it Mr. Warmington brought some motion or suggested that I was
but you're out of order to
that is your idea of order.
Randy, I want to tell you this. We enjoyed today, and I want to say to Janet,
yes,
that I'm going to want to speak to her after this.
Yes,
I respected
well, that's
her
very good
a
of you,
little
and
more
I appreciate that.
than
Yes.
she has presented, and there are certain things that I think she can do to unite us, rather than being considered as one of them
Yes.
that is separating and destroying the image of the political system, which we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we cannot do without.
Absolutely. We need to strengthen and purify our institutions, not destroy them. A final point, though, just for your thinking. Organizations that are of civil society, they're not government organizations, but they're the, if you will, the uprising of people around certain thoughts, ideas, like accountability or justice or whatever. These are vital in a democratic society,
Yeah, but I just want them to spread it out. It doesn't look
absolutely.
as if it is just the politicians that you are destroying.
Sure.
Because
And I think
there's
she
so
was
much
clear.
need balancing in the society. Once you have that, and this is why Trevor myself separated when I run left from much.
I was about to say, confession is good for the soul. All right, dear friends, listeners to the public eye, thank you so much for your company today. Thanks to the Honorable Colonel Charles for his graciousness and geniality, and to our guests, Professor Trevor Monroe and Jeanette Calder of National Integrity Action and the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, respectively. Thanks to you, Jeff, for your comparing of this program, and to all the folks who listen to the Bridge 99 FM. Stay tuned, and we look forward to being with you live sphere, God willing, next Wednesday at midday. Till then, take care.